Hey everyone, Rob from Southgate Media Group here. Before we get started with this podcast, we have a quick message. If this is your first time checking out the show, we love that you found us and we really hope you enjoy it. What we have to say is for the subscribers. If you enjoy our shows, would you please donate to help keep these going? We don't want to have to put traditional ads on these shows, but this does cost money. So we really do rely heavily on donations. To make a donation to the show, please go to our website, www.southgatemediagroup.com. Go to the page for the show, and in the upper right-hand corner is a donate button. It takes you right to PayPal, and you can donate whatever amount you want. Thanks a lot for listening, everybody. And now on with the show.
Welcome to 221B Baker Street. I am Sherlock Holmes, and this is my colleague, Dr. Watson. Actually, I am your host, Zachary Hare, and while she is not Watson, she is the Watson to my Holmes, Kristen Deere.
Hello!
Today, we are talking about the elementary. We are in episode 2 of the new season. We're all very excited.
Yay!
Oh, yes. And I like this episode, right? Because this one actually has references to classic Holmes, which I love seeing.
What were those references?
Oh, well, the big one is, of course, the Pipz.
Oh, yes. From an original Arthur Conan Doyle.
Yes. Which is always funny. Obviously, it's not an adaptation. Pretty much the only similarity between that and the story is whoever gets the Pipz dies.
Right.
But
two of the characters, Elias Openshaw and Fordham.
Of course. Yes, indeed. And I before we even talk about story, I just really like that. It was a great use of a reference. It made sense to the story. It didn't feel forced in like they do with a lot of references in other Sherlock Holmes, not in this one, of course. But yeah, I was very pleased with it.
Yes, I was pleased with it. I mean, I think Elementary though isn't. It's never as good at the mystery as it is with the character development.
It does do character. Also, I think this one I thought did surprise me at the end.
It was surprising at the end, sort of, but like getting there, and then it almost I felt like in a way it was almost like a cop out, although it was surprising though. I don't know. It seemed like there could have been something more intriguing there at least for the reasoning. I don't know. It just seemed a little.
You thought the motivation was a bit simple for a Holmes story. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. But I do love the character development and how it has the best characters and character relationships of any Sherlock Holmes story, I think. They're all very unique, But I do like the way the mystery was used. It was almost used like as sort of a device to help evolve the characters, and I did like that.
I can see what you mean. Yes, but so of course this is the five. Well, in this one it's Pipz because they actually spelled Pipz with a Z.
Yeah.
But we go right in. I love right from the beginning. I love the scene, like you said, character. We have the scene with Watson and Bell.
Yes.
Which was awesome because he's just looking at Holmes like, yeah.
You mean Sherlock and Bell?
Oh God, I can't believe I just did that. See, this is why I can't do this podcast alone. I'll be calling Gregson Moriarty by the end of the season. That's how bad I am. But yeah, it's the scene here, and I know it's really funny, listeners. I am looking at the show as we're doing this, so that's really messed up. And the scene was Holmes and Bell, where he's just giving a look like, yeah. If you look closely, he says you're back, and he makes a joke, obviously a joke because we know Holmes respects Bell, and.
Right. I know, taunting him over his detective skills.
Well, here's the thing is, if you look closely, I think right after he said that, he gives him a look like, "Oh, you jerk, I missed you." You know, like how you would with someone
Right.
like that. Like, "Ah, I
Exactly.
missed you jerk."
Yeah.
And then Holmes solves one of his case in 2 minutes.
Right. Well, or he at least had solved it. He could have solved it in 30 seconds. We don't know because he rifled through his desk
Yeah.
and found the case and said, "Oh, I solved it."
Well, what I like about even though it's short, it makes sense that Bell wouldn't immediately figure out that case
Right.
because like who sees scratches on someone goes, oh, that's from a bird. That's why he killed. No one would think that, so it makes sense that Holmes would figure that out.
Right. It's the appropriate sort of case for Holmes. And I like that Holmes is trying to get in on everybody's business and try to it's like Holmes's way of saying hello to Belle. You know, it's his, hello, it's nice to see you again. Here's your case solved.
One thing that I think should be noted also that's about the original Orange Pit story. It's actually spoiler alert. It's from the original Holmes. If you haven't read it yet, come on. And it's one of the few Holmes stories. I believe it's actually only one of two where the client who comes to ask for Holmes' help dies because almost
Yeah.
every other time he saves them. Which and the more you know. CBS cares.
Ding ding ding. Yeah.
A weird little side note. I just find it funny that have you seen that CBS prostate ad?
No.
Because
Well, maybe I have. I don't.
there actually is a connection because the guy they use actually he says he's a real doctor, but he appeared in one of the elementary story episodes.
Oh, okay.
I mean, everyone. If you haven't seen it yet, you probably will. It's like this great PSA who goes on this side of the finger.
Did they happen to show it during the episode?
Not this week's, but they do every
Okay.
so often.
Okay. Because I was gonna say my version didn't have commercials this time. I had to download it. My internet or my cable was out. It just happened to go out on that night. Well, not just happened that I'm having work done on the house and they unplugged something and then it stopped working and
We just like
I
to
had to
say that
download it.
here at Southgate Media do not condone illegal downloads, even though we probably all do it. But yes, so we get the case where a man comes, he finds the Pipz, and he calls his lawyer, and it turns out Gregson's already there, and because his lawyer's been killed, who also got some Pips.
Yep. And over the phone
Yes, indeed.
with
So
the police on the line.
yeah. So we start where we get more into the case, and of course we get some scenes with Kitty,
Yes.
who we see is a little tweaked.
Yeah, she's very annoyed through the whole episode that she doesn't get to be a full Watson yet.
Well, I think it's although I do agree that Holmes kind of a jerk to her. I mean, I don't think because it's Holmes, he doesn't realize that he's being very very rude to her. You know, the lessons he's trying to teach her are great, and the points he makes are valid, but he could go about it a little bit better.
Right. Well, I'm starting to realize it seemed a little different in this episode. At first, I was thinking that he was almost like a new abuser, and in a way, like an emotionally, and that he didn't realize it. But it seems now, it almost seems as if he does realize what he's doing. You know, that he is upsetting her, but that he's trying to like kind of toughen her up a little bit, maybe like
Well,
or
I think
emotionally.
I think it's that because now that we know what we know of her history, we know that she is a little unbalanced because of what happened to her. So I think he's going for like the firm hand. She's trying to give her focus, like the whole firm hand route and all that.
Right. And so I think when because she keeps assuming that she can't trust him, and so then he comes back and it was like, why are you behaving this way? Now look at how foolish you look, And so if he does that enough, it's like, okay, I get it now. You know?
Well, the thing about this show, it's so far, and we'll see if they continue with this season, but they usually never do anything in the show without a point.
Right.
Every story choice has a conclusion, has a reason. So her being there, obviously, and everything. If they continue their same habit, this will continue in that.
Yeah. And I'm sure that's how it is. They're going to explain all these because they're so detailed on the characters.
Mm.
They always have the characters planned out so well, and I have a feeling that they have all this planned out in advance, and we're going to be let in on all these clues later.
I'm just curious to see where they're going to go with Kitty, because obviously we know Holmes and Watson are going to become partners again. I mean, we know it's going to happen.
Right.
But when is it going to happen, and how, and what's going to happen to Kitty when it does? I mean, if they're doing this just to give her her own show, oh my God, imagine if they're trying to see if Elementary. Oh my God, they might, because I think this is the season where it's going to go into syndication.
Yeah, it is.
So, and usually after when something goes into syndication, they try out its juice, and that's just the kind of thing they might do. So who knows? I would not surprise it. So we get more into we get another little. I love these awkward. I even tweeted Holmes and Watson awkward because like them together, it's just.
Yeah, and Watson seems annoyed that Sherlock is on the case.
Yeah, yes, but I think what she does here is good. Because I really don't want to. I mean, they do it they've done it a couple times. I just hope it doesn't become a staple where she's resistant to Holmes and realize she could use his intellect. So I hope that's not every single case. I'm like, oh no, okay, you know, what I mean, every episode that would get tiresome.
Yeah, she's becoming really rigid. She was starting to grate on my nerves this episode.
Yeah.
She's just seems so rigid and bitter. But at the end, things seem to change a little bit with Kitty, you know. But at the point where she's, you know, first Sherlock is bringing himself onto the case, she's just so annoyed. And but I do kind of like how they sort of worry us. They put us into the viewers into a state of worry, you know, that she'll be annoying, and then they kind of fix her at the end. You know what I mean?
Which is probably was the point, and we'll see as more episodes come along how they're going to develop this relationship. So we get some insight on the case. It turns out the Pipz are actually from a children's toy, and this has got to be the weird. I mean, I've heard of stuff happening with toys, but this is a weird one. Apparently, the company that made them used a cheap chemical that was pretty much GHB.
It turns into GHB in the system.
Right.
Yeah.
It metabolizes it. I mean, that's an interesting side effect.
Yeah, and that was actually based on real life events that were fairly recent.
I didn't know about that one.
Yeah, that actually happened in real life, but some kids were hospitalized, but no children died though in real life.
But what was the case really, that it metabolizes GHB?
I don't know that part. I don't remember actually, but I know that this is something that happened in real life. It's something similar where there was a drug in there. Because
I obviously know nothing about.
Actually, I think it was. I don't know if it was GHB, but I think it did. I think there was a possibility that it could have been used as you know, a street drug.
I think I vaguely remember that. It sounds so familiar.
Yeah.
And I know nothing about chemistry, so I don't know how that happens. Now because they didn't say it mimics the effects. They said it literally turns into GHB.
Yeah.
If anyone who listens to our podcast is a chemistry major, please email and let us know, because that one's a little lost on me.
Actually, my mother could probably
really
help with that. Yeah, I know there are a lot of things like that. There are a lot of different things where when you eat them,
of course,
you know, they turn into other things in the body. It's like when you drink alcohol, it basically turns into sugar in your body.
Well, we'll have Kristen talk to her mother, and she'll get back to us. And if we have another chemistry-laden episode, we should have your mother on it.
Yeah.
Does she watch the show?
She does.
Ah, that could be fun. Actually, it's funny because I used to, when I was when I did the first season podcast on another place, which was not that. My mom used to yell, "Tell them about the thing!" when she was over at my house when I was doing the podcast, because she would watch the show too. Ah, mothers. Now, moving on, we have this scene with Belle and Kitty.
Oh, yeah.
And that sounds like another kind of story. Oh, the story of the Kitty and the Belle.
Yeah, the kitty and the bell. Aw. Or ringing the bell to bring the kitty home.
Well, apparently, Belle tried to ring the kitty, and Kitty didn't like being touched.
Nope.
That was a pretty good. She did that really good, I thought. The whole reaction,
Yeah.
because that looked really realistic.
It did. And I think knowing her background now, that the way she acted through this whole episode was really realistic. And I remember people on Twitter were kind of upset at first. They just thought she was annoying and they couldn't stand her.
I
Get
thought
rid
so
of her.
too. I'm like, why is she doing that?
Yeah.
Well, I knew something happened, or we just didn't know what.
Right.
And I think what's going to happen is, and this could be great to talk about at the end of the season, is I'm sure once we learn, we're probably going to learn everything about Kitty by the end of the season. And it's going to be interesting to go back and rewatch the season, knowing what we know.
Definitely. I was actually thinking about this after the episode. I was thinking, you could probably do a whole clue cap of Kitty, evolving, of how, all the clues to what kind of person she is by how she reacts. I mean, like Belle, freaking out when Belle touched her is a clue to her victimhood, and so you get all these clues to what kind of person she is, and then
her wanting
at the end of the season we'll have a big clue cap, Kitty clue cap.
I'll put you in charge of that. And another thing that could go towards that is her repainting the cabinet, because she wants to change. She wants to. A lot of people do that when they want to. They clean, or they get rid of furniture, or they change the furniture.
Right, and the music. The music she's listening to and the way she's painting it, and just really dark and like getting in there with the paint.
Yeah, and spending way too much time on one section.
Yeah, exactly.
It looked like she was just like, ugh!
Yeah, and it was red, like blood, like stabbing it,
Yeah, the music. Well, I if anyone recognized that music, I am curious to who that was, because I'm a bit of a connoisseur when it comes to psycho metal. But so another thing, I like this. We have, of course, the scene where they go see. Let me get the character name right. It's the father. I believe he's. Oh man, Gabe Coleman.
Right, Gabe Coleman.
Yes, and he's this guy was so sad.
But I love this guy.
Yes, me too.
I miss him. I miss him from Revolution. Did you ever watch Revolution?
I'm meaning the marathon. I watched a few seasons. I'm doing it again. A few episodes and didn't really get into it. Now I fully plan to go back and marathon it, but I think I do remember him from it.
Yes, Zach Orth, and he's one of the best characters on there. At least up until the last season, he starts getting a little annoying. But he's one of my favorite characters on there. But yeah.
Oh, he was he was also a voice
actor.
apparently he was a voice in Red Dead Redemption, the video game. I always find stuff like that fascinating.
Oh, I see. Okay. I don't really play video games very much, except a few on my phone.
Well, okay, and he's like so mad that they're spending all this time investigating the guy that killed his son, and but they couldn't catch him. No, the guy that killed his son, but when it was the original case, it's like that he feels they didn't care, and this guy played it. Oh, the way he talked when he talked about that was just great. Just the pain in his voice.
Yeah, I mean, and the way he when he was in the jail cell and he was his face, just so downtrodden, just
when he's like, you're gonna I loved when he said, you want to do this, you want to do it the hard way, you're gonna have to do it the hard way and get a warrant. The way he said that was great.
Perfect.
Yep. and we get a little tidbit because they said, oh, the other cop apparently had the house broken into. All these little, there's a little clue drop right there they had that we find out is very important. Well, we found out it's important pretty quickly actually, but still. And now one thing I just want to go back to the scene with Kitty and Holmes because I want to almost make, I mean, not a running gag, but it'd be great if she like almost got like a little note cards to hand to him. I'm not Watson. Read it. See, not Watson, because Holmes is always saying in front of her. Watson never felt the need to. I'm not Watson.
Yeah.
I bet she's gonna snap. Like she's gonna be an episode. No, even no, it'd be really funny. I think it could be an interesting twist is if you got all three of them together and Holmes says Watson never had to do it, and Watson says she's not me. Like a little twist on it, you know?
Yeah. Reversal.
I would think that. So they leave to get more evidence, and they get and the guy walks in and he confesses to the crime. Oh, but I do like how Holmes also says he fought the police. He tried to stonewall the investigation. I tend to believe I believe him that he's innocent.
Yeah. Well, also, another little thing right before that, I like how Kitty called Gabe her suspect.
Yes.
She said my suspect, and you're treating me like the clue's useless, and like her clue was useless and stuff.
And it's funny because Holmes doesn't think that at all.
Right. It's the opposite.
But it's because he's Holmes.
The way he acts.
Because like he honestly believes he's helping her.
Yeah.
Like she's like she isn't Watson. That's the whole reason.
Right.
Like she's got to learn. She's a beginner, and she's got to learn and she gave her, I guess you could call it a menial task because he wants to start her slow and start her up before he gives her harder cases.
He's trying to get her mind and get her in a different headspace. I mean, she's just she's taking everything as an attack on her, and she needs to get out of that and see that, oh, okay, he is trying to help me. And so I think he's kind of doing that on purpose, like we were talking about before, where he's slowly building her up so that she has confidence and doesn't think that people are always trying to. I mean, she kind of has confidence, but she thinks everyone's attacking her.
But that's probably the whole point of it. I mean, she can't, and we learn in a few scenes later that she really can't do the serious stuff yet because she's not ready.
Right.
And the scene, like you said, the scene between Holmes and the father is fantastic.
Yes.
Because Holmes is. The funny thing is, when Holmes said the ballistics, I thought right then and there he's going to say they didn't match your gun. That's what I thought. And then when they said they did, I'm like, what?
Yeah.
But then he says, even you look surprised at that information.
Yeah.
Which I thought was brilliant.
Right. And then I also, and all of this through the whole thing, it's all kind of the whole mystery is kind of a device to move the characters forward. So like when Coleman is talking about how he was basically felt completely helpless, could barely get out of bed, we see Kitty's face, and you can see that he understands how he feels.
Oh, I didn't.
That those feelings of utter despair,
I didn't even pick up on it. You're right. She would. Now that we know what we know about her, she would connect with him on that level about that.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, the thing about this, it's like you said, this, in your opinion, that the episode was more about character than the case. Usually in a show, whenever they have those episodes that are so obviously just about furthering the characters, furthering the overall story arc, they're usually pretty bad. But for an episode that could just be moving the characters along, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, usually it's like you're watching an episode like, is it over yet? We get it. They're moving from point A to point B.
Yeah, I think overall the episode was really good. Like even though I wasn't as excited about the mystery, I liked the way it flowed, and I liked seeing the actor Zach Orth, who played Gabe. I thought that was a lot of fun to see him and his acting, and actually he had a lot of character development just as a extra
Oh,
character.
this show is fantastic at the one-off characters.
Yeah.
There are a lot of characters we will never see again, and we wish we would because they were so awesome. Like, I remember the episode where they're in the guy's trying to steal money and they're trapped in a snowstorm. They had this character of a tow truck driver, and she was awesome, and you saw her a grand total of like 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but we will never see her again, but she was awesome.
Yeah, I remember. I know exactly what you're talking about. That was pretty good.
And now we get a scene between Watson and Belle. Ha. I got it right this time.
Yes.
And I like this conversation because
Yeah.
and I don't know if you almost get a sense that Belle cares about Holmes here.
Yes.
Like it's a lot like what Greg did in last episode. I want you to do good. Same thing with Belle probably sees Holmes as a colleague, and. Right. That he like, because he says you were a stabilizing force for Holmes. I don't get stable from her, and when you think about it, that's true. Holmes, while has come a long way, he still needs structure, and being a teacher to Kitty might help that. But will she make him go off every season? We always ask the question: is Holmes going to relapse?
Well, I'm wondering if Watson can be stable for both of them and help. Maybe just help Kitty somewhat to not drive Sherlock mad. And, Sherlock, Sherlock will just be how he is, He's
right.
not going to change. But perhaps Watson can provide that stability still.
Oh my God, Zach Orth was in the Romeo and Juliet Baz Luhrmann. Little random tidbit as I'm looking up the episode.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh. I'll have to check that out.
Yes, I'm doing my usual thing of looking up an IMDb as we're doing the episodes.
I had to leave my computer in the other room. I'm usually on my computer. And this is the one time that I didn't need it last week, and this week I need it. So, of course, I don't have it with me.
So we get to see now he's at the attorney's, city. Wait, she a federal attorney? I got a little mixed up exactly what. I forget what kind of she was federal.
Assistant
U.S.
US.
I always get that stuff mixed up. Now, what's interesting about this actress who plays your attorney? She's actually British.
Yes.
Which I thought
she was on Lost.
I actually never watched it.
Oh, yeah, she was Penny on Lost. She was I guess, long lost and found again, and long lost and found again wife.
I am really glad I never watched that show.
Yeah, it was a very weird situation.
And she also had she was also a voice in a video game. She was just a background voice in Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. And she was
more video game stuff.
Yeah. And this says she was in a few episodes of Coupling. Sally.
I don't know that.
I like the show a lot, but oh God, she was in the. Oh God, I think she was in the American one. Oh God, it's the American one. Oh, that was bad. That's something for another podcast.
Okay. So I don't usually like the American version of.
Oh, it was so horrible. The British one, I think, is fantastic, but
that's like Being Human. What they did to Being Human in America was terrible.
Well, it's funny, actually, this could be something we talk about, because when this show first came out, everyone thought that this was just going to be an American version of Sherlock.
Oh, right, I remember. Yeah, people were already upset about it before it even started.
Or they were also worried that they were really, really worried that Holmes was going to be American.
Oh yeah,
which would have just and a little. It's always funny. Luckily, this is not one of those American knockoffs of things. But I think Coupling is particularly relevant to mention how stupid people can be, because Coupling was the British version of Friends. Because it was about.
Oh really?
Well, think of it. It's about 630-somethings dealing with relationships and love, and it came out about 5 years after Friends did.
Okay.
So when you think of now. You got to keep that in mind, because that means the American Coupling is an American version of a British show of an American version. So it's like television inbreeding.
The
Holmes has
circle.
yeah, Holmes has its share of bad adaptations. One thing I've always said I want to review on this podcast, because we're not just an elementary podcast, we're a Sherlock Holmes podcast, and I always wanted to review. Do you have kids?
I don't.
Okay, so you probably wouldn't know. Did you watch cartoons? You watch a lot of cartoons?
No, not
Okay,
not
because
anymore.
there
When I
was
was little.
well, yeah, that's what I mean. There was a Sherlock Holmes cartoon, and I'm not making this up. It was called Sherlock Holmes in the 22nd Century.
I don't remember that. I never
Yeah,
saw
it
that.
was literally about like after Holmes goes over. Like apparently in this version, Holmes did go over the Reichenbach Falls with Moriarty, and they become frozen in suspended animation and waking up in the future. And Watson's a robot.
Oh no,
No, and
a robot.
I don't mean his personality. I mean literally the robot who just starts calling himself Watson.
Okay, that's weird.
Yes, it was. And they had the descendant of Inspector Lestrade.
That's really weird.
It's really silly, but any Holmes fan should check it out because it's just so weird. It's awesome.
Okay. I'll have to check it out.
Okay,
then.
so I've pulled the Rob Southgate and gone off track, so I'm gonna pull my own card and get us back on it. We have the scene with the U.S. attorney, and we get this view that Kitty is not ready because she actually like accuses the U.S. attorney of obstruction and Holmes was so. It's funny because Holmes would do that if he thought the situation called for it.
Yeah.
But I think he's more mad that she did it at this point than that she did it at all.
Right. I mean, and her explanation, when he's so angry and she just says, "Oh, I was trying something."
And
Right now?
I like how he's like, actually, you don't have to say it. No, I want to say it. It really showed a mentor relationship because he was disappointed in his pupil.
Yeah. And
we,
she gets the face like, "Oh."
It's funny. I was actually watching this with someone, and they look at her and go, "Wow, she looks so British." I look over and go, "What does that mean?" Oh, something I forgot to mention from in the scene. Has anyone notice that when Watson walked in, Holmes jumped? Like he spun around and go when she walked in totally? He's like
I didn't notice that.
Well, it's not like he leapt up, but really he perks up when Watson walks in. I swear to God. Watch that scene again. I'm telling you. And we get also Kitty says was the motive. She mentions how like two bad men are dead and someone who's getting closure will get. Now it's funny she says that because we had an episode last season where that happened, where someone took the fall for a murder they didn't do, and Holmes let it happen because he understood why.
This is where Sherlock actually tries to be empathetic, or he is empathetic with the father.
But what I was saying was, it's funny, this thing was because she says, two bad men are dead, a good man wants to take the credit, why can't we just, he'll get closure? And Holmes says, you really think he'll find closure in prison?
Yeah, so Sherlock's actually, he's being empathetic here with the father.
Now, what's interesting about this is last season we had an episode where someone confessed to a murder they didn't do because they felt they deserved it. And the circumstances that Holmes knew, he let her do it.
Right.
But that's the difference. Holmes is not saying that we shouldn't let it happen. Holmes is saying we don't have the full. When he did that last season, he knew the full details of the case. That was at the end of the episode. This one, they don't know motivations. They don't know what's going on, so they can't do it. So he says we don't know why they were killed. It could have nothing to do with the case. They could have been killed for other reasons. We don't know, and that's what he's trying to teach her.
Well, also the murderer is still out there.
Exactly.
And so that was another thing he mentioned, and I like how he worded it. He said, you can't let murderers go free just because the world accepts, quote, an inaccurate count of things.
I like that. That sounds like something classic Holmes would say.
Yeah. But Watson realizes Sherlock may be useful in her interview with the guy involved in the traffic incident.
Of course. I felt so bad for this guy.
I know. But I'm confused. How did they even find him?
Yeah,
Through traffic cams?
I wasn't really sure.
What?
I probably have to rewatch the episode one more time, but
Like,
I don't remember them saying, like, because we heard earlier that he was in an accident. It must have been. I'm gonna have to watch it a third time and get back to everyone next week because I'm not sure how they found him.
they said Bell said something about how they were. Oh, we checked the traffic cams, like you asked, or something like that. And I mean, it was kind of a throwaway line. But what? From traffic cams? What on earth? How do you find some random thing? Some random guy involved in some random, as a witness in some random accident.
And this guy was so deer in the headlights.
Oh God, he was so nervous, and the way he was, looking around the room, like, oh my God, are you guys gonna like try to entrap me? Am I being videotaped? Just looking all over, like who's watching me?
Yeah, and I like how Holmes actually uses he essentially says, "We're British. We don't care about the American justice system, so we're not going to screw you over."
He was still freaked out though because of who was involved, and they hadn't, they weren't expecting that.
Oh yeah, well that
expecting,
was yeah. Well,
yeah.
none of us were. Well, I thought she was high. I honestly thought it was going to turn out she was the killer.
Yeah, I did too.
And there's this, and of course he's like, you're trying to trick me, and he's like, what do you mean? Because this woman was the woman he talked to, and they're like, what woman? This one right here. Oh boy.
Yeah. And he looks like he's gonna pee his pants, He's just sitting there like so freaked out. Although they kind of tricked him into, he wasn't gonna say anything, and then he's like, "Oh well, this woman." He just says it.
And she and now we know that they confront her about it, and she's outright lying to their faces about it.
Yeah. And I like how they accuse her of murder, Watson and Sherlock, but this time she doesn't immediately kick them out, as when Kitty made her remark, accusing her of just obstruction. Now she's accused of murder, and she's like having a whole discussion with them.
Oh, well, look at this, because that's an interesting thing to go back now that we know the ending of the episode, because she was, in a way, well, not really obstruction, but she was guilty of kind of messing with the case because of the missing evidence, but she's not guilty of the murder. So that's why she didn't react guiltily, because she had nothing to do with his death.
Right. So now it's like she has this whole conversation. So it's kind of another clue in a way.
Yeah, yes. And when she refers them to the agent back to the agent that was doing the surveillance. Oh, and we get a great little scene here before that between Holmes and Watson, where they're talking about whether they should believe the testimony. And they said it can happen that people get faces confused, but he's not sure what to think. And then she says, "I did a background check on Kitty," which he understands, of course, and he tells her little bits of information I like how he says Kitty's not her given name, and Watson's like, do you really think I wouldn't have checked that too?
Well, also, I was a little. It's kind of weird. Like Watson does this background check. Wouldn't the police automatically do that first anyway? And so it's almost like she doesn't even trust. She doesn't trust Kitty or even Sherlock, but she doesn't even trust Gregson to not be a complete moron. She's kind of lost all of her trust in people in general.
Well, she was hurt when Holmes left.
Right.
That's something, and we're going to deal with. We kind of dealt with in the first, but I bet that's going to be more relevant.
But that's one of the reasons she's kind of annoying in this episode. She doesn't trust anybody. She's rigid. She's bitter. All these things, all the bad things.
Yeah. Yes, and well, I think it's more like she wanted to find out for herself. Like, that's the thing. She has trouble trusting people, so she wanted to find out for herself what the story was.
Right.
And we go over back to Agent Bowden's house, and he gives them a nice little story about that he saw it all. He doesn't want to get in trouble. Can I have immunity? So it's the whole 9 yards, and we find out later this is complete bull. Because they
Baloney.
go back to the U.S. attorneys, and I love this scene. I love it. It actually reminds me of one of my favorite scenes from Law and Order, because there's a scene in this old episode of Law and Order, and it's actually from the actor who played Alfredo. He played in this episode, in the episode of Law and Order, he played a guy who's accused of hiring a hit in prison, and the hit doesn't go off because the guy got stabbed in like he's like, listen, if I had hired someone to kill someone, he'd be dead. Oh, you're admitting to the murder. No, I said, if I hired the murderer, he'd be dead, not have a flesh wound. And that's like what she's doing here. If I was guilty, I wouldn't be this stupid.
Yeah. Or I could be stupid and I'm covering it up.
I like how she's like, I'm going to have your... And like again, the person I was watching the episode was this, why don't they just arrest her earlier? Because I'm like, it's the U.S. attorney. You need good evidence. And then she's like, I will have your badge. And Gregson's like, slaps the evidence down, like, yeah, I don't think so. I love how she's got an attorney there who said, this guy didn't say a word the whole scene. He was just there to look.
Yeah.
And another thing, when they walk in, she's on her phone. Like, oh, just updating my tweets. How y'all doing? Oh, you're accusing me of murder. How you going?
Oh, yeah. She's all texting or something.
And this is just something that kind of struck me when I watched the episode, is when she's talking to them, they focus the camera in a really interesting way. Because a lot of times when they have a scene like this, they show both the cop and but this one, maybe it was the size of the room, I don't know, but they focus solely on her, and when she's talking, they don't turn the camera at all. She turns her head to talk to other people, but they never show them at the same time. And I just thought that was I don't know if that was on purpose or if it just happened to turn out like that. I just thought it looked interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting. Although, it could have been because they had some scenes they had to throw away or something.
Oh, that's true. It could be part of a. Oh yeah, that makes sense. Well, that's the thing with stuff like this. You just don't know. There have been many times when someone will look at something and go, "Wow, this is a brilliant piece of filmmaking," and it's like we did that on accident.
Right. And sometimes, I mean, I've been on the set or watched and while a show's being filmed a few different times, and sometimes they take forever because the lighting is wrong, and they have to do a weird position because they can't get the light just right from another position. So that's another thing.
Yes, and I love her reason. Like she says, like you were told you were seen. She's like, yes, I'm the one who set up the surveillance, so obviously I would know when to go to not be seen.
Right.
And then she says how, like, why would she still depositing the money after he was killed on the chance that they'll figure out?
Yeah, I mean, she basically gives them all the, they're like, oh yeah, she made a lot of good points.
Well, the last one is she tells them that she asks, who points you in my direction? Because I never told him about the missing evidence, so how would he know?
Yes, of course. So that takes them back to him.
And he is on the lam.
Yep. And also, he came on board after Open was arrested. That was another thing. He kind of put himself right in position to steal those files. So there was something that he wanted. He wanted to steal the evidence.
Yes. And so they start investing. Now, of course, we get the big wall. And I like the scene where Kitty takes a piece off the wall, and Holmes is like, what are you doing? Yeah. You never mess with the wall!
Well, I like the way he's sort of... he doesn't get real upset about it. I mean, you can see it in his face, but the way he just kind of looks at her like, what?
It was very OCD.
What are you doing?
When you think about it, it's like someone, like if you slightly move something and someone's OCD has to put it back.
Yeah. It's like an OCD thing. Like, oh, you're ruining my OCD problem.
If we don't have the picture right there, we'll never figure out the case.
Yeah. I could almost hear him say, "Insolent child."
Oh God. No. But she actually makes a good point here. She says it makes no sense that he would kill him. No, dispose of the evidence to help him and then kill him.
Right.
And that festers in. And so, of course, she leaves in a huff.
Yeah, and then she's like, okay, figure it out yourself.
Then she says that, okay, now I will say this line that she says here felt forced. When she says, maybe I should take some GHB, and it's like, why are you saying this?
Yeah, I know. So either it was forced, because that was that was the clue, or that, she's bringing back the clue, reminding us that there's GHB in there, and but I mean, the line is forced in there so that we know to think about that, have that in mind, so that when Sherlock looks at the picture after they're talking about how it doesn't make sense, that he'll put two and two together. But it was kind of weird because when they oh, by the way, I forgot to mention, I love Sherlock's truly disgusted face. I mean, and he stood there with it for a while. I mean, when what we were just talking about, the kind of when he was so upset when she took it off the board.
Yes.
And I mean, I love how they showed it for like a couple of seconds. He was just standing there, maybe 3 seconds, with that disgusted face.
It was very childish when you think about it. It's like,
face.
why are you touching my stuff?
Yeah. I mean, well, they're both childish, They're both kind of stuck at that childish phase because of they both suffered abuse when they were younger, So it's kind of,
just
when you suffer
kinds.
abuse, it kind of sticks you in at that age when
they both suffered different versions of, like, Holmes was obviously neglected by his father, and Kitty also was kidnapped
and beaten up at school. He was.
That too, and that does take its toll on him.
Right, and so, they both are like so, just children. They're like children playing, and Watson is there, like, the parent. I think she's going to be the stability for both of them, because she's like the parent coming in. I don't care who did it. Both go to your rooms.
You know what? I think they're going to have that scene. They're going to have a scene where they're arguing, and she's going to say, I don't care who. No, because they love to comment on the commenting, I bet she says, I don't care who started it, and I can't believe I just said that. I think that, because it reminds me of the scene with the chickens, like, yes, you got me to say the word cock. Are you happy?
Right. She's always got to be the parent here.
I'm very curious. Now, I'm also curious, because
she's got 2 kids.
We got a mention of her boyfriend. I wonder. I hope it's not just that's one thing a lot of Sherlock Holmes adaptations get wrong. Like, they just throw away Watson's relationships, mostly because in the books his wife is barely mentioned.
They better not this time. I like that guy, and I love how Clyde helped her find him. It brings Clyde into the mix too.
Well, it wasn't Clyde. It was the guy's own lizard.
Well, no, but Clyde was the reason she found.
Oh, right. You're right, because she knows about. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Now, well, I just hope it's not some. Well, they don't really do. Well, they did one twist, of course, with Irene, but I just hope it's not. He's like secretly surveilling her, or is he really a government agent? Because Sherlock did that in the BBC Sherlock, and that was really bad. And I do hope we actually end up reviewing those episodes, because I really want to trash this season of Sherlock. But
well, I love Sherlock, but for a completely
too.
different reason. I mean, and Sherlock is better, I think, at the mystery portion, and then Elementary is better with the characters.
Well, yeah, that's true. Because one thing this gets right. I mean, one thing I really don't like about the BBC Sherlock is how. Of course, I understand he's high functioning genius, but you are still self-aware. Like, the one thing about the original Victorian Holmes is he was a gentleman and very likable. He was.
Yeah.
And I've said this 100 times on different podcasts. The one thing so many Holmes adaptations gets wrong is his treatment of Watson.
Yes.
A lot of Holmes adaptations show him actually, in a way, almost how he's treating Kitty. Like, let me correct myself. The way she thinks he's treating her.
Right.
Like there was one Holmes adaptation where he was just insulting Watson the whole time, calling him stupid, saying you're not as smart as me. And Holmes, like, Watson is his, well, obviously in this version his sister, but Watson is his brother. It's brother in arms, without a doubt. He would die for Holmes, and he never, and they've played that really interesting. And going with Kitty, I think that would be an interesting route to go. Like, she thinks he's trying to tell her, I'm not abusing you. I'm trying to help you because you need focus, which I'm sure they will. They will have scenes like that, I'm sure of it, where they hash
Yeah.
it out even more.
I mean, that's the thing that's so great about Elementary. I mean, all the things that are great about the mystery and Sherlock, okay, where you have all these little clues and everything's planned out really well and it's really intriguing. You have all that with the characters on Elementary. You know, there are all these little tidbits that you
There's nothing
get.
pointless in it.
Right. And a lot of people don't, they don't see that. A lot of people still compare the two. But I mean,
You
they're
can't.
just so completely different.
In my opinion, after I'm not even though hopefully if you're watching this episode, you've watched the first. But the reveal at the end of season 1, in my opinion, is when this show said we are our own beast.
Yes.
And so we get right after the Kitty leaves. Holmes tells Watson a little about. This is when we found out she was abducted. She was abused. And he gives her the file, giving her all the information. And he's telling her, like, he sees a lot. And I love this thing because if Kitty could see Holmes talking about her right now, she would see, oh my God, he really does care about me.
Right. And I mean, he said, well, actually, he talks her up with everyone except just not to her face. He talked her up with Belle, saying she reminds me of myself. And, she tells Watson that he tells Watson that she's strong and smart, I mean, he says only good things about her. He hasn't said I don't think he said a single bad thing about her to other people. He's only said maybe even more than she's worth right now, at this point.
I'm curious to see where they're going to go with it. I mean, because I love, like you said, like we were saying, this show everything has a purpose, and I can't wait to see what Kitty's purpose is.
Yeah, it's going to be really fascinating, I'm sure.
Yes,
they always do something fascinating with all the characters.
Yes. So here we find out the whole drama, and I like the surprise because it's a good, in my opinion, in a way I think it was a good mystery because we're so focused. It's like Holmes says, we're focused on what makes sense, and obviously it was retribution for the child's death, but we forget. And it's like Holmes says, nobody saw the Pipz as street level GHB.
Right.
And it's like no one would really, but this man did. He saw the potential for it.
Well, yeah. Well, anyone who's not, a bad person or takes drugs, a drug addict. I mean, the whole reason he saw it was because he's had a problem with drugs in the past, probably, and
true. Yep.
And she mentioned it. Kitty mentioned it. That's why it was kind of a forced mention there of GHB, so that he would see it, and then he takes the photo, and then he puts two together. But at this point, I mean, it was kind of weird. This is what was weird to me. It's like Kitty almost telepathically helps them solve the case, because she keeps doing all the right things, but for the wrong reasons. I mean, she didn't like that Angela White. I mean, she was really rude to her from the beginning, and she didn't know for sure that Angela was actually a bad person. I mean, even though she didn't commit the murder, she was still corrupt. Okay, she didn't know that. I mean, unless she's like even smarter than Sherlock. But I don't think they're trying to say that, but it almost felt supernatural for a second there. It's like, man, she solved the whole thing without realizing it.
Well, it's like Holmes said, you helped. If only you had. Well, if she had been there, she probably would have been. And Holmes says, if only you had been there for when the epiphany came.
Right.
And he tells her, being a detective means you're gonna have to go through hardship. It's gonna take. I think it's gonna take. You're gonna have to take pains, as he said. I think that's his. He's trying to temper her like steel. That's why he's being rough to her.
Right. I mean, she's got to get past this feeling that everyone's attacking her and this like childishness, and grow up.
But
He's
I think
trying to get her to,
we get a little view in that.
even though he hasn't grown up yet.
Yeah, true. Well, he has a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit, but he still, has kind of a childish side also. And so, he still needs Watson to temper that a little bit.
Yes. Well, and we get here I think we get a little view in her and Kitty grow up because Watson's. I like the look of surprise on Kitty, like when she says, "I didn't read." She's like, the look in her eyes is like, "What?" Because she meets someone who doesn't care what her past was, which I think is going to help connect them. And then Kitty, in my opinion, in a scene of growth, says, "You know what? Read it. I don't care if I'm not going to be She's like saying, "I'm not going to be defined by it. Go ahead, read it." So you can understand me better.
Right. And I do like how on the last episode I had said that I liked how they started to get along a little bit at the end, because if they kept up with the cat fight.
This is not a CW show. We don't need the women fighting and being jealous every 2 minutes.
And so there wasn't cat fighting in this one, but they were both being annoying. Kitty and Watson both were kind of annoying through the episode. But then at the end, we learn more about both of them, the way when they meet again. And I like these meetings at the end between them. And I'm wondering if they're going to do it in every single episode and kind of have like a resolution to any problems that they have with each other throughout the episode.
Yes, it could. Like I said, I cannot wait to see where they go with her. And usually when you add a character like this to the show, it's not going to work. But so far, it's working.
Yeah, and I like how at the very end, it's almost like a special occasion where Watson has her wine there and everything. It's almost like a special occasion, getting a better sense of Kitty over wine.
I just realized, when are we going to have Holmes meet her boyfriend?
That would be interesting.
Oh God, imagine if he just starts. He's like, "Oh, he does this. He does this." It's like he's all jealous.
Yeah. Well, I don't know though. I mean, because they don't have. I mean, this is what their relationship is so unique. He'd be jealous in a kind of a weird way. I think he'd be jealous in like that he's taking her time. Away from him.
Well, we'll see. We'll see where they go with it.
Yeah. So I'm sure it'll be something interesting, whatever it is.
So overall, what'd you think of the episode?
Well, I liked it because I liked how the characters evolved over the course of the case, and we get to I like how I like how Watson and Kitty were both annoying, and I didn't like it at first, and then you kind of you learn why everything is happening the way it is, so like kind of after the fact, you're like, oh, okay, I did like that after all. I kind of like the way they trick you.
Yeah. So before we get to my opinions on the episode, I think it's time for Kristen's Clue Cap.
Ah, yes. So, for the crime of the murder of Elias Openshaw and Fordham. Okay, so the first clue was, at the very beginning, we see that each of the two victims had the 5 Orange Pipz with them. And, the one guy had just received them and then was murdered over the phone. But so they both had the 5 Orange Pipz. And the second clue, they were each murdered within an hour of each other. That's something that Sherlock mentions. And then that basically is how he connected that Openshaw ran the company that manufactured the pips and had the GHB in them that had killed the kids, and Fordham was the attorney. So that connects the two men. And then number 4 was the postal code on the bloody envelope, and that was something Kitty found. and that belongs to the parent, Gabe Coleman. Okay, so then the fifth clue was that Coleman basically lost everything. That's or we think that that's a clue as to possibly his motive. And but the sixth clue, Coleman travels in his car for work. That means, according to Sherlock, he wouldn't have done it because he could have gone anywhere to drop that in the mail, right? So to drop the Pipz in the mail. So the seventh one is actually Coleman's confession, because at first we're thinking, the immediate assumption, oh, maybe he knows the killer, right? So that's a possible clue right there. So then the next one, White, the fact that White ran into Openshaw on the street 3 weeks prior, and so from those traffic cams, which were amazingly found. And then the next one, we've got Fordham's office was close to the incident. So that connects Angela White with Openshaw and Fordham. Okay. And so then the next clue was that the evidence in the case went missing. Okay. So whoever wanted to steal the evidence is involved, right? And so let's see. So then the next one, okay, so the evidence in the case went missing. And so there were so many clues in this one. And some of them were kind of, not so much clues as like possible clues, And so the next one, Fordham blackmailed that the bank. They got those bank records. So bank records showed that Fordham had been blackmailing Angela White. And so then the next one, Angela White never told anyone about the missing evidence. Okay. And so, but Agent Bowden knew about it, right? And so Bowden came on board after Openshaw was arrested. So that was another clue. Why would he do that? So then that, because of the blackmail, stealing evidence. Okay, so because of the blackmail, the stealing of the evidence, which helps Openshaw, but it shared the same motive as for killing him. So that means, okay, so I'm getting lost here. Okay, so then you put those last three clues together, okay, and you've got, and then you just connect them with one of the earlier clues, the GHB, and that gives you the most glaring but easily overlooked fact that the Pipz contain street drugs, and so that connects them to Bowden, since the last three clues there connect them to Bowden. Ugh. So that is how they solved the case of the murder of Elias Openshaw and Fordham.
And everyone, I hope you kept notes, because there will be a test on that later.
I kind of got lost in my own clue cap there, because I had so many. And there were like possible clues. As you go through, there are possible clues, and then they turn out not to be.
Well, the revenge killing was a complete red herring, so.
Yeah. So.
Okay, so in my opinion, I like you said, character development very strong in this episode. I can't wait to see where they go with the relationship with Kitty. She's a new character, but she's working. The reveal at the end, and of course, I love a reference to the original source material, and the reveal at the end, I did not see coming, but it still worked. It wasn't like a surprise ending that made no sense. So overall, I like the case, like the character development. Overall, good episode.
Yes.
So I'd like to remind our listeners, if you want to get in touch with us, please email us bakerstreetpodcast@gmail.com, Baker Street Podcast on Facebook, and of course, Baker Street Pod on Twitter. Liz, do you have anything you'd like to plug or whatever?
You can catch me on Facebook, facebook.com/Kristen Dyer, KristenDyrr.
All right, so that's all for this week. Can't wait to catch you all next week. We have to go now because the game is afoot.